Hi creators, welcome or welcome back to Academic Phoenix Plus. My name is Monica and I am here to celebrate Latin Heritage Month. I'm honoring Latin culture through one of the most iconic folk art forms, Papel Picado. Papel Picado means perforated paper in Spanish. These beautiful detailed paper banners are a traditional art form seen throughout Mexico and other parts of Latin America. They are used during celebrations like Dia de los Muertos, weddings, birthdays, and it adds color, joy, and meaning to every event. In this tutorial, we're going to recreate Papel Picado in 3D using Maya. You'll learn how to create the patterns in Photoshop, and then we'll import them all into Maya for a beautiful render. Latin Heritage Month is a time to recognize and appreciate the incredible influence of Latin communities, their stories, artistry, and cultural contributions. Creating Papel Picado digitally is my way of showing respect and sharing this beautiful tradition with a wider audience. Let's celebrate Latin Heritage Month, one polygon at a time. And also, if you want to follow along, just stop by academicphoenixplus.com. There you can download the files for free, and then you can create your own Papel Picado in Maya. Alright, so here is my 3D scene, and I've already created a project. If you need to create a project, just go to File, Project Window, click New, call it something, place it somewhere, and there you go. In the source images, that is where you can find the color, which looks like this, the alpha map, which I'm going to use for transparency, and I also have a little bit of paper texture. I created that in Photoshop. What I did was go to freepik.com and found this beautiful Papel Picado. Then I brought it into Photoshop because it is a Illustrator file. So I brought it into Photoshop and I pulled the designs. I added this background color because I want to make sure that if there's an anti-alias or anything like that, it's going to be a similar color. I saved this as PNG. And then to create the alpha, I just created a color overlay in white. Made sure that I hit that color, and therefore I have a black and white image of the banners, and that's how I created my textures. Next, we're going to jump into Maya, and the first thing we're going to need is a plane. Let's go ahead and scale it up, and in the inputs, we don't really need all this geometry just yet. Let's go ahead and change our subdivision width and height to 1. Rotate this 90 degrees and lift. Now, I am using Maya 2026.2. And it does come with a new material. Right click, assign new material. And very similar to the Arnold AI standard surface, we're going to grab the OpenPBRsurface. If you have a hard time finding it, click on Maya and it's right there. It looks like a little swirl there. OpenPBR. Let's scroll up here, and on our base we have a color. Let's go ahead and click on this connection. The fourth one down is File. There is a folder you're going to click. And as my project is set, all my stuff is in source images. I'm going to go ahead and grab the Papel Picado color and open. If you don't see anything, don't panic. Hit the number 6 on your keyboard. Now you can see that it's sideways. So let's go ahead and hit E and rotate it. You can also use the channel box to rotate it 90 degrees. Now, the problem is the scale. I can kind of guess what this looks like, but instead I'm going to be using the information from the actual image itself. So let's freeze this transformations. You might as well delete the history. What we need is the information is in here. We're going to right click and we're going to choose properties. Then we're going to go to details and you have this value here. I'm going to scoot everything to the side. And what I'm going to do is in the Y, I'm going to move the decimal over. So it's going to be 2.038. And then for the Z, it's going to be 3.54. And there you go. Now, because I just went through all this effort, I'm going to go ahead and freeze the transformations again because I don't want to accidentally scale this incorrectly. Next, I'm going to open up the attributes and go to the OpenPBRsurface and relabel this because I don't want to get confused. And just in case I have more shaders. The next thing I'm going to do is increase my roughness because this is going to be it's supposed to be paper, and that's really rough, so let's make sure we increase our roughness so it's not shiny. We're going to scroll down until we see geometry, and we're going to go to our opacity. Let's click on this connection, File, Folder, and we're going to select our alpha, which is our black and white image. White means you can see it, black means you can't. And right away, it looks like it's working. So let's go ahead and create a plane. I meant a disk. Scale it up. And let's go create a light, Arnold light, physical sky, and let's take a render. And you can see that it's not working. So let's go ahead and go back to our shader And what we need to do is tell Arnold to take a look at the alpha's luminance, and we also have to make the alpha raw. So to do that, we're going to select our object. We're going to click on this little connection. We're going to scroll down to color space, click on that little triangle, and then go to utility raw. We also want to keep scrolling down to color balance and turn on alpha is luminance. Take a render, and there we go. Now it looks like there's no shadow information. We're going to rotate this because it's so straight that the shadows are not there. So now you can see the shadows, which is exactly what I want. Now for the preview, I'm going to go ahead and rotate him like this and move him a little closer. All right. Now to make him look even more realistic, we need to look at the back of the objects. Now, if you're looking at paper, you know that paper is very thin and there's a lot of light. You would see the other side of the paper. So right now it's treating it like a solid. So the first thing we need to do is click on thin filmed. Now we're not going to see too much of an effect because the effects come from subsurface scattering. So I'm going to scroll up to subsurface and I'm going to increase the weight. And it's going to look like a candle. Right? So what we need to do is go to color. We're going to click on this connection, go to file, and scroll this up, go to folder, and we're going to choose the color map again. This is going to give us the subsurface of the paper. And now we have a nicer effect. Now it looks like not much has happened, but let me create a torus so I can demonstrate to you why we have this effect. So here we have the torus. I'm going to lift it up a little bit so it's supposed to be casting shadows here, and you can see that the effect is having here, right? So you can actually see the light that it's being blocked. Now this is what it's supposed to look like. However, if I don't have that surface, let's turn that to 0, you can see that it becomes solid. And that's the difference between something that's solid versus something that's paper. The subsurface lets the light through and we can see the shadow of the object. It just makes it look a lot more realistic. All right, I'm going to lift this up and start separating these banners. So let's go to Shift right click, Insert Edge Loop Tool. The long way is Mesh Tools. Where is it? Here it is. Insert Edge Loop Tool. I'm used to the shortcuts, so it's always throws me off. And I'm like, hold on, let me show you the long way. Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop Tool. And what you want to do is click this way and start making some cuts. Now, some of them may overlap a little bit, like here, and that's okay. Just want to make sure we can cut everything out. And if you want, you can make these a little smaller. All right. Next, we're going to go to Faces, select that, and we are going to extract them. So Edit Mesh, Extract. Then we're going to select the next one and hold down Shift to select this little piece. And you can go to Edit Mesh, Extract, or click on the letter G on your keyboard. That is your last command. G. Right? So what happens if I go to Object Mode, I now have this piece that's separate and this piece that's separate. So let's go to Face, select that face, G. Go back to Face, select this one, Shift select that one, and again you can always go to Edit Mesh, Extract, or the last command is the letter G. So for example, I can select that, click G, select that face, Shift, Extract, and now I have multiple different pieces. I'm going to select all of these and then center the pivot, delete the history, freeze the transformations, and then also delete this extra piece, because I don't need it. Now we need a curve. Now if you find this dark dome in the background distracting, we can go to Viewport and then scroll down until you see lights. So let me try that again. Show, Viewport. Oh, I selected Image Planes. Lights, and then there you go. So it might be a little easier to see this way. But just to let you know, it still renders with the lights, so we're okay. Another little housekeeping, I'm going to select the dome, which I can't select it now because it disappeared, but in the outliner over here to the left, if you don't see it, just click on this button here, outliner, grab the sky dome, scroll down till you see visibility, and then change the camera to 0. So when I render, that dome is not so distracting. We now have a nice piece, and we also get a alpha map. So that means that I can bring it into Photoshop and make some additional changes if I choose to. All right, let me make this a little bigger. Next, we're going to create the rope that it's going to hang in. So let's go ahead and go to the front view by hitting spacebar here. We're going to go to Create, Curve Tools, EP Curve Tool, and we're going to make our rope like this. Just click and drag until you are happy. Press Enter when you're ready. If this is throwing you off, press the number 6 on your keyboard and you can see the pieces as well. Next, we're going to grab our object, and if we right click and control vertex, you can manipulate the curve if you choose to. And then what I want to use is called Create Sweep Mesh, but I need a lot more vertices. So to do that, I'm going to go over here to Curves, all the way at the bottom, Rebuild, go to the options, and I choose a high number, like 45. Rebuild. So what that does is rebuilds the curve. So if I go to Control Vertex, you can see the number of vertices that I have. So select that curve. We're going to go to Create Sweep Mesh, and it gives us this really large tube, and that's okay because we're going to go to the Scale profile and just go ahead and change this to something small. So obviously that's not small enough, so maybe 0.08 might be a better value, and there we go. We now have geometry. And by the way, it's one of my new favorite tools. It makes life so much easier. Next, we're going to start snapping these to the object. Now, I think I'm going to make this, let's freeze the transformations to make this a little bigger. I can hide this, Control H, and I'm going to snap it, but to make my life easier, I'm going to click on the letter D, which basically changes my pivot point. I can move my pivot point and then click D again. Select this one, D, lift, D, lift, whoop, D, lift, D again, D, lift, D again, D, lift, D again, D, lift, D again. Now that those are ready, I am going to make sure I'm in W, which is the move tool, and then I'm going to do V, middle mouse, and snap. So that means I'm holding down V for vertex, which means that it will snap to the vertices. And I also am holding middle mouse down. That's how you use it. It's a little tricky, but it's a lot of fun. So V, hold down middle mouse, and then you can drag. Let go of middle mouse when you're done. So this is going to help me get my paper objects ready into place. Again, you're going to grab the next one, V, middle mouse, and snap. Now you can see that I'm trying to snap it, but it's not snapping in the right direction. So I just have to reset the move tool. So press W and then middle mouse and snap. And there you go. V, middle mouse, and snap. Let's go for red. V, middle mouse, and snap. V, middle mouse, and snap. And then V, middle mouse, and snap. Now I can tell these are crooked, so I'm going to go, again, hit the space bar, go up here, and I can't see them, so I'm going to do 2 views. I'm going to go to Panels, Layouts, and then do 2 panels side by side, and then that way I'm the top view, and I'm also in this view. I'm going to zoom into these, and you can see that I have this one selected. I'm going to hit E and grab the yellow one to rotate it in place. So let me check on that one. That one is not exactly straight either. I'm going to grab this one and rotate it as well. Grab this one, grab the yellow and just kind of rotate it in place. Maybe make sure it's intersecting and maybe bring it down a little bit so I can see. I want to make sure these are actually in it. Otherwise, they look like they're just floating in space, and I'm trying to make this look as accurate as possible. This one's going to be a little challenging because the curve, that should be okay. Let's make sure that one's okay. Let's grab this one, press E, rotate it to make sure it's in it, and then we might have to rotate it this way. And again, this makes it easier because I moved the pivot point, so that makes just make this a lot easier. Whoop, and then just make sure it's actually in the string. And push this one in, press space bar, and there we go. We now have our papel. And if you need to, you can duplicate any of them. So maybe I'll duplicate this one, or I can just go ahead and select faces and delete this extra section here. And ta-da, there we go. Let's take a look at it in a render, and there we go. It's looking really nice. It's up to you if you need this plane. I'm going to hide it for now. I'm also going to grab these guys and do a Control G, which is a group. And I center that pivot up here at the top, center pivot. And then I can do some decorating, duplicate, Control D, lift, rotate this 180 degrees, duplicate this again, Control D, move it over here. And now we have rows of Papel Picados. Let's go ahead and turn on the resolution gate here so we can get a nice close-up and then try to find a nice angle. There we go. Now to make it look a little bit more realistic, I forgot to add the bump map. So let's go to Papel Picado. We can always scroll down to bump mapping over here. Click on this little connection. Let's go to File. I am using a black and white image, so keep it as use as bump. Click on this connection. We're going to click on this folder, and then we're going to grab that crumbled paper. Same story with this one. You always want to make sure it's raw, and then you also have alpha luminance is on. It might make it a little bit wrinkly. I want to go into my placement node over here and increase my repeat UVs to 3, which means that the paper is going to be tripled. So now we're getting a nice texture to our paper. Now, if you feel it's too strong, you can always click on this connection here, which will take you to the file. Click this one again, and it will take you to the Bump 2D node, and that's where you can calm it down. So if you feel like maybe a 0.3 might be a better option, totally up to you. There's a little bit of noise there, but I personally think bump depth is good at 1, and therefore we have this nice looking render. We're going to go ahead and add a couple of fun things to make this look even nicer by selecting the camera. We're going to scroll down to Arnold, and what we want to do is we want to enable what's called DOF, which is depth of field. Let's go ahead and render it as preview. And you can see that there's not much of an effect because we do need to increase the aperture size. And now it just doesn't know where the focal distance is, like what should I focus on. If you want exact numbers, the best way to do that is through display, hit up display, and then you can go to object details. And if you select the nearest one, you can see that the distance from the camera is around 29.37. So we're going to select that camera again, and we can write it here. Focus distance is 29.7, well, 29.3. And then you can see the effect. So this is a nice way of making sure that the focus is here. And then you guys are welcome to add even more of these guys because it's going to be less distracting now that you have so many of them. So I could put some really far away, maybe make them a little bigger just so they fit a little bit better. And we can even scoot this one back a little more. And now we have this really cool depth of field. Let's go back to the perspective. If you want to make it even stronger still, you can always increase the aperture size even more. Totally up to you how you want to do your render. And there you go. That's how you can create depth of field using the Papel Picado. All right, guys, that is how you can take a image, convert it into 2 files, the color map and the alpha, and bring it into Maya to create a really beautiful aesthetic in honor of Latin Heritage Month. Don't forget that you can go to academicphoenixplus.com and download these files so you can follow along. Thanks for joining me in this creative celebration of Latin Heritage Month. I hope this tutorial not only helped you build new 3D skills, but also inspired you to explore and appreciate the beauty of Latin culture. Art is a powerful way to honor heritage, so keep creating, keep learning, and keep celebrating culture through your work. Nos vemos pronto.